What's up, guys? So in this video, I wanted to just go ahead and talk a little bit about like the issue with remote closing. So I know that remote closing is like this huge thing right now. It's like, oh hey, just take sales calls from your home and make $10,000 to $20,000 a month as a closer, or make $8,000 to $10,000 a month as a setter. It sounds great. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, they do a really good job marketing that stuff, right? They do a very good job of really pulling on the greed and the lazy strings in particular. But it is anything but that in reality, okay? That's why there's such high turnover. Just go to Reddit. Just go to Reddit. Look up remote closing. Go to TikTok. Look up remote closing. You're going to find that a whole lot of people are honestly like they burn out very fast. Sure, you have your top 1%ers in every industry. You have your top performers in every industry. But what really matters is the average, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as we want to think of ourselves as unique and as much as these sales guys, which is ultimately what they are, as much as we want to think of ourselves as above average and, we want to toot our own horn, at the end of the day, the average person doesn't think he's average, right? Or she doesn't think she's average. And the people on the phone with you that are trying to sell you into these opportunities, they won't either. They'll try to, gas you up, build up your ego however much that they need to get the sale, try to butter you up, so to speak. Sorry, I had to sneeze real quick. But basically, the problem that I have with remote closing is just the environment, the high pressure environment that not only it puts customers in, but it puts the workers in as well. So there's a pretty notorious remote closing program out there. The name of it's Remote Closing Academy, or Closers.io. It's by Cole Gordon. Okay. Now I want to preface everything that I'm about to say by saying that from a transparency perspective, at least on the front end, I think he does it a lot better than other marketers and other gurus, for example. And the reason why I say that is because he has two different routes. So one of them is, if you're already a closer, join my program and we'll get you hooked up through our network of high ticket closing positions. Like if you're already a sales guy and you're just looking for a remote role, hey, come in, you have a network or whatever, or like I want to hire you. I guess the only slight deception in that is that you're kind of thinking like you're going to get interviewed and like immediately placed into a next job, and I'm not 100% sure if that is like even available. But what I do know from research that I've done on different forums, Reddit, stuff like that, is that if you're not a closer, then or you don't meet whatever standards that they have for you to immediately get hired, you're pushed into a program where they teach you their specific method of remote closing, and then from there you can potentially get interviews to other companies. So it's kind of like a direct solution. It's like, hey, my closing process works, so I'm going to train a bunch of people to learn my process, and then I'm going to send those people out to other high ticket offers, and they're going to make a whole bunch of money because of this process. Because you absolutely can make money with remote closing. Like, you can. I'm not going to say that you can't. The issue with it is that some people may find themselves coming across ethical dilemmas, okay? The reason why I say this is because you have a bunch of different, like biz ops is what they're called, business opportunities. And when you're a remote closer, you're going to get fit with one of these. See, if you were just becoming a closer to sell somebody sales training, like it's a pretty clear cut kind of thing. It's like, hey, here's our sales process. We're kind of using it on you right now. We're going to teach you how to do the same exact thing. Here's how much it costs. And then, here's what you can expect. That's pretty transparent. So that's why I do respect the company to some extent and respect Cole's process. Like it's about as clear cut as you can get at the end of the day. The issue is how you then sell people, which is what I'm not really all that fond of. You're focused on, psychological plays, law of reciprocity, getting your prospect to make emotional decisions, kind of like prying for information that you're ultimately going to try to use at the close. And I'm just like I'm not a big fan of that. If your product is good and you have a high price, then somebody should be like, okay, yeah, it's logical, makes sense that it's this expensive. Hey, here's the money. It shouldn't have to be closed based on emotion. Like, I hope that makes sense. I hope my stance is kind of clear on that, like what I'm kind of saying here. Because it's like an iPhone, right? iPhones are super expensive. Everybody knows it, but people still pay for it because they know it's worth it. So if somebody had to try to, sell me into some kind of like old school phone and also charge me like $1,000, they're going to have to play on more of my emotions to get me to buy it instead of just the logic. You know what I mean? And I just think that people need to be making logical decisions, not emotional decisions. And the thing is with remote closing, a lot of these business opportunities are going to have to help people make emotional decisions, which is ultimately it's going to eat at your conscience. Like, unless you're just like an absolute soulless person that's just completely heartless, like it's going to eat at you. That's why the industry has a high turnover rate. Most people last 6 to 12 months tops, even if they're good. Like I've seen people go in through these different programs, learn the process, make the money, but then ultimately their conscience gets to them and they leave, right? Because here's another fact. Like, the marketing is like, oh, you're going to be selling for high ticket programs with people who already want to buy the program and like all this stuff, warm leads, blah, 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 blah. And while yes, like that's true, they're going to be a warm lead and that they've kind of gone through the marketing funnel. The thing is that sometimes you're going to hop on with somebody that is on disability, or they have cancer, or they're on Social Security, or they're 80 years old and they don't know how to use a computer, but you're told by your guru, by your sales manager, to qualify them, basically. Try to find out a way how you can turn this person into a customer. Now, they use all sorts of like fluffy language and like, you need to help this person believe in themselves. If you didn't close them, you just didn't believe in them enough. You didn't do your job as a closer. You're supposed to build people up, make them believe in themselves, and then have them give you their credit card so you can run the cost, right? With a lot of these programs, they'll tell you, oh, we have to qualify you. Like, oh, we don't let just about anybody in. Like, we have to qualify you first. You have to hop on a phone call with my team, which their team operates off of commission. See, I can guarantee you for every single business opportunity out there currently on the market that if their sales team went to just like a flat rate, 5, 7, 10K a month, whatever it is, the amount of students enrolled into the programs would drop off a freaking cliff. Why? Because that salesperson is going to look at their prospect, and if that person has cancer, or if this person doesn't know how to use a computer, or whatever reason, they're not going to qualify that person for the program because honestly, it's just not a good fit. And that's okay. People need to realize that there is a cap to these kinds of business opportunities, these types of, guru course creation type of things. Like, there's a cap to it. You're not going to, train millions of people until you're selling them more hope than you are solutions. It's like, I like Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins says good stuff, but like, does he actually sell any kind of business solutions, or is it mainly just a lot of mindset, right? It's a lot of mindset, not necessarily solutions, which is like, you've got to be careful with. But basically, with remote closing, you're having to sell people hope for these opportunities. Now, here's where it gets worse, okay? I've seen all the marketing where it's like this remote closers on TikTok or on Instagram or YouTube, and they're just like, oh yeah, like I take calls on my own time. I cancel appointments that don't have money or don't have this, don't have that. Like I have all this control. And the simple truth of the matter for like a lot of this is that you actually don't. You are just another sales guy for just another opportunity, except you are in a much more cutthroat space. Okay? Like, sure, a lot of these guys, they have contracts that you sign, NDAs, all that stuff. But they get rid of you just as fast as they find you if you're not hitting your numbers. And what are your numbers? Generally speaking, like if you're a closer, you're going to have a KPI. It's called Key Performance Indicator. You're going to have a KPI of like 20 units a month is generally what every kind of coaching program is set at. If you're a setter, if you're an appointment setter, of the appointments you set, generally like 20 would need to close. Like that's KPI for the month. But even then, you're not even going to make the money that they tell you. They're using the best case numbers. They're using the numbers that maybe one guy on their team makes. For example, it's like, oh, I want to pay you $300,000 a year. Only one sales guy on the team is probably doing that number. And I mean, trust me, like they exist. Okay, 300 grand. That's nothing to sneeze at. I get it. But not everyone does. I've known plenty of people that are closers, or I've seen go from setter to closer, where they're just making $5 or $6 grand a month. And sure, $5 or $6 grand a month is not bad in some places in the world, especially if you live outside the U.S. But come on, $5 to $6 grand a month now is not near what it used to be. Heck, it's not even what it was 10 years ago. $5-6 grand a month, like that's paycheck to paycheck now, and they like that. The gurus like that. They like it when your back's against the wall. They like it when you have to, make this sell that maybe shouldn't be made, but you need it because of commission and all this stuff, which just goes back to you start to qualify people and have them spend their money knowing logically, not only in your mind, but then also emotionally in your heart as well, that it's likely not the best solution for them. And again, it should be okay, but because it's a commission role with remote closing, if you don't make the sell, you're pretty much fired. That's how a lot of these companies work, because they spend ads, right, to get the leads in the door, and then your job is to close the leads. If you can't close the leads, then you're a problem, you need to go. Even if the reason why you close the leads is or you don't close the leads is for entirely ethical purposes, they don't care. They don't care. They'll just say, hey, like you need to skedaddle, right? With appointment setting, again, like go read these threads about like appointment setting, about closing, the hours. Like that's another thing people say, oh yeah, like I have all this time in the day and I'll just take an hour and a half here or an hour and a half there, or I'll close this deal, close that deal. You're never told about the no-show rates, because guess what? Even though an appointment is set, not everybody shows up. Okay, you have people that bail. Why would people bail? Because they probably look at your business opportunity, they research it, and they find out, oh, it's not like I need to avoid this, right? So they just don't show up. People don't tell you about like the average schedule, which is like you'll have 6 to 8 calls a day for whatever business opportunity you're working for, and then those calls are generally an hour to an hour and a half long. But then if half of them don't show up, then that's 3 or 4 people that you're on the phone with for the day, and then you become desperate for a close. When you become desperate for a close, again, it's just like that ethical, high pressure, like emotional decision making that you're having to push somebody into, and it's not cool. But again, like your schedule is not really determined by you. It's determined by your guru and sales manager at the end of the day. And if you don't hit your numbers, like you're just gone. Like it's just what it is. So it's a lot more stressful than people would like to think. Now, I'm sure that there are some companies out there that have a really relaxed environment, a really relaxed remote closing environment. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure not everybody is high pressure, right? I get it. But I'm just saying, for a lot of the faces that you see online, not necessarily the little guy who runs things the right way, but just a lot of the big faces you see online, brother, believe me, it's like very high pressure. Burnout is incredible, like just what I've witnessed personally between all these other programs that I've reviewed, talked with people who've reached out to me. Like, it's insane. It's not what you'd expect it to be. It's not what the marketing says at all. Now, if you're looking for something that is exactly the way that the marketing says, no high pressure sales call, no emotional decision making, and I would say check out this thing that I do, which is called local lead generation. And basically what it is I build this website for tree service, and I'm not a tree service contractor. I can climb a tree, but I sure as heck can't cut one or remove a stump, right? So what I did was I built this site. I ranked it to the #1 spot in Google, okay? And when I did this, I started getting a lot of the phone calls. And the reason why I got a lot of the phone calls was because I was the first site people see. And when you're the first site people see, you're generally the first one that they click on, right? So then they read through this site, which I put a lot of good information on there for people to read, and they click this phone number. This phone number gets sent out to a contractor who actually fulfills the work. And when he fulfills the work, I get paid. This is also what's known as a finder's fee. It's very, very common in the service-based business space. So these sites are generally worth $500 to $2,000 a month, depending on the niche and the volume of calls that come in and all that stuff. But it's a very legitimate way of making side income while also bringing value to the marketplace. Because it's like, if I'm bringing somebody 10 extra jobs per month that they otherwise wouldn't have, I'm literally adding to their pocketbook and I'm just getting a small cut in return. That's why finder's fees exist, okay? Profit margin on these, you're talking like $15 a month for web hosting, $10 a year for the actual domain name, and $15 a month for the phone number. So even if you get on like the low end of like $500 a month for the site, you're talking a very, very high profit margin. And this site, guys, right here, I haven't touched it in like 5 years. Like, it's once these sites are ranked, they typically stay ranked. And the process still works today. Like, I know that this was 5 years ago, but I just put up a site 2 months ago down in Florida, and it's already at the bottom of page 1 for the keyword that I'm going after. It's already generating phone calls. So it still works to this day. It only takes me like an hour or two, like when I get off of work, to really do this kind of thing. So it's very much realistic. No smoke and mirrors, none of that crap. If you guys want to check it out, I have a private invite that I'll put down in the description below. But basically, check out this page. It answers every single question you could possibly have, so that you make an absolutely logical decision and not anything based on emotion, no hard sell, nothing like that. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.